old, she had a degenerative disorder, a form of muscular dystrophy called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. CMT, as it's called, has no treatment, no cure. Fortunately, Dr. William Sims presented it in a way that was positive, yet truthful, and in a way that my 6-year-old self could understand. He looked at me and asked, "Do you think I'm old?" Now, I adored this wonderful man, but in my eyes, he was old. He had to have been in his early 40s at the time. So I said, yes. And he looked at me and said, he laughed and said, "You're right, I'm old." But then he used that as his platform to explain degenerative to me. He said, when I was younger, I was a lot stronger and faster than I am right now. As I get older, I'll be a lot weaker and slower than I am right now. Kind of stinks, but it's normal. And then he looked me right in the eye and he said, "You, my dear, are advanced normal. The older you get, the weaker and slower you'll get. It'll just happen a lot sooner for you." Dr. Sims wasn't compelled to give me more information than I needed. You see, the full prognosis of CMT would have told me at that point, start preparing, you'll be in a wheelchair by the age of 16. But I walked into the DMV and got my driver's license just like my friends. That prognosis would have predicted isolation and insecurity through high school. But I participated in beauty pageants and speech and drama tournaments. That prognosis would have told me to expect to depend on the care of others as a young adult. Instead, I moved away to college, finished my degree, began a career as a television news journalist, and lived independently. That prognosis would have dispelled any hopes of physical adventure. But guess what? I've been skydiving, parasailing, whitewater rafting, and most importantly, I gave birth to my beautiful, perfectly healthy daughter. I thank God there was no internet access in 1970 when I was diagnosed. Had I known all of the ways that CMT could or should limit me, I probably would have fed into those expectations and missed out on some of the greatest highlights of my life. Dr. Sims didn't set a timetable for me that would have been impossible to predict. Instead, he gave me tools to cope. He taught me how to fall. He prescribed a form of physical therapy for me called fall therapy. Fall therapy had 3 main objectives: teach me how to prevent falls, teach me how to manage a fall in process to avoid injury, and teach me how to get up and walk again after a fall. When it came to prevention, I was coached on how to spot dangers when entering a new environment. I was taught how to scan the room looking for hazards to avoid. My physical therapist, Tony, turned this into somewhat of a game for me. He would stage a room with a variety of hazards and then time me on how quickly I could spot what I needed to avoid. Things like a spill in the floor, a rug or cords, anything that could cause me to slip or trip. As I progressed in fall therapy, Tony kicked it up a notch. He staged a social gathering. He had a group of people laughing, talking, gesturing with drinks in their hands. The purpose of that exercise was to take me from looking for the obvious spill on the floor to looking for the potential for that spill to occur, and then quickly formulating a plan. No matter how astute I became at scanning my environment and looking for hazards, prevention would only get me so far. The nerves that tell my muscles what to do would misfire. Unexpected falls were inevitable. So that made it important for stage 2 of fall therapy to begin. to teach me how to manage a fall in process to avoid injury. I want to take you through a bit of fall therapy. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, no cell phones. Close your eyes. I want you to imagine for a moment walking along in great conversation with a wonderful friend, engulfed in the moment, then bam, your knees buckle under you. What do? Open your eyes. What did you do? Did you extend a hand to try to stop the fall? Or maybe two? That's our natural instinct. That's our tendency. But so often, injuries occur when we try to stop the fall, especially for me. So Tony taught me how to go down gracefully. He taught me to cross my arms, tuck, and roll with the fall instead of breaking against the fall. As we practiced this, Tony put me in somewhat of a harness it was a harness, for my safety, and he would walk along with me and talk, engage me in wonderful conversation as a distraction, all the while his assistant was behind me, poking the back of my knees to simulate unexpected falls. As we practice this over and over and over, it worked. I moved. I changed. I changed from that arm extended to take the fall to arm extended to break the fall to arms crossed to take the fall. But sometimes, no matter how much we learn what we should do, old habits come into play. Over the years, the times where I've reverted back to this natural instinct has resulted in me dislocating my elbow about 30 times as that sacrificial joint took the hit. Ouch. Teaching me how to prevent falls was important. Teaching me how to manage falls was beneficial, but it was so empowering to teach me how to get up and walk again after the fall. Naturally, when we fall, what do we want to do? We want to get up quickly and get it over with. But that was not in my best interest. It could have caused more harm. I needed to sit in the fall, to take the time to let my body recover from the shock. But Tony taught me to use that time wisely. He taught me how to triage, to look for breaks, scrapes, bruises, strains, whatever is going to hurt when you get up, so that I would know how to compensate, how to manage so that I could walk again with confidence despite some pain. Tony also knew that there would be wonderful people who would want to rush to my aid and quickly lift me up and get me on my way again, which was not in my best interest. So he taught me how to occupy those helpers. Can you give me some orange juice, please? Can you give me some ice, please? As they dispersed, I continued my triage, and as they returned, I coached them on how to truly assist me in the best way to provide help. The biggest thing was to get me a chair. I would have someone bring a chair to me and hold it really steady as I pulled up onto the seat of the chair to pivot to stand on my knees. That was stage one. Then I needed someone to provide a barrier to the back of my foot to keep me from sliding back as I wedged my way up onto that chair to pull up and sit, to just breathe for a minute before standing to take those steps. Isn't that a little bit like life sometimes? When you walk a rough path on this journey, don't you just need to sit for a bit before you stand again? A funny thing with the chair, I had a fall when I was working as a PR director for a hospital outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I took a fall outside on the sidewalk, and the intern who was working with me panicked hysterically. So she came out and I said, "Can you get me a chair, please?" And she quickly came back with her desk chair that was on rollers. Needless to say, there will be people who have a way out for you that may cause more harm than good. Are you beginning to see the connections? Can you see the way that fall therapy is about so much more than physical therapy? Fall therapy can help us in our lives. The truth is, we will all experience falls. Some of those can be in our relationships. Some of those can be in our career. They could be the result of our gross and just bold indiscretions. They could be a result of just mistakes. They could be a result of poor habits, poor judgment, our own shortcomings. Sometimes they have nothing to do with us at all. Sometimes we just get caught up in the wake of the mistakes of others. And then there's those unexpected falls, loss, failure, disappointment, rejection. The things that we never saw coming that knock us down to our knees. So, let's take some tips from fall therapy. Let's prepare for those things before they happen. First of all, let's avoid all the falls we can, please. If you haven't done so already, consider a coach or a mentor to help you develop your own core values, your standard of ethics, the principles that will guide you as you live your daily life. Those principles can be used as a measuring stick or a filter to help you make those tough decisions. It's better than trusting your gut instinct, because sometimes your gut instinct can help you rationalize your way to a poor choice. Next, just as Tony taught me to scan the environment looking for hazards, open your eyes. When you're beginning a new relationship or a new project or interviewing for a new job, do your research. Ask the tough questions. Ask about core values. Ask about goals. It's not to put up a barrier of trust. It's to open your eyes to the potential for that metaphorical spill on the floor, the crumpled rug that could be coming to your life. As you practice fall therapy, build relationships with people you can trust to bring you the right chair. Relationships with people you can trust to hold that chair steady enough while you do the brave work to take the courage to pull up for that first step. Build relationships with people who are real enough and strong enough to put their foot behind your own to tell you, "I'm not going to let you slip back. I'm going to keep pushing you forward. You can do this." And you can push and push to get on the seat of that chair, to finally sit, to breathe before you take those next steps. Practice fall therapy. Go down gracefully. Own your mistakes. Take responsibility. As you sit in your fall triage, figure out where you've done the most harm. Then and only then can you formulate a plan to get up, compensate, and walk again with confidence in the future, despite the pain. The good news is, the more we fall, the more lessons we learn. The more lessons we learn, hopefully, the less we fall. But never, ever waste a fall. Your experience may be just what someone else needs to clear their path, to show the hazards that they need to avoid. Your experience may be the one that entitles you to be the only one who can bring the right chair. Your experience allows you the strength to hold that chair as they take that brave step to pull up. Your experience could be the one that is the perfect blend of compassion, empathy, and strong accountability to place your foot strategically behind theirs to say, I am not going to let you slip back. I'm here. Push forward. Leverage your way up. You will stand. You will walk again. We will have falls in life. It's how we go down and get back up that makes the difference in our walk. Be mindful. Be ready for those falls. Practice fall therapy. Know the falls will come, but when they do, be willing to go down gracefully so you can rise triumphantly.